Hello, good evening and welcome. Good evening in the UK, buenas tardes en México. Bienvenidos todos. Hello, my name is Ana Elena González. I am the director of the Center for Mexican Studies, UNAM UK, based in King's College London. And today I have the great pleasure to introduce Professor María del Coro Arizmendi Arriaga, who is going to talk about hummingbirds, those wonderful, wonderful creatures. But first, I'm going to introduce her because she has an incredible experience in these topics, and she's extremely influential in the area. So we are very honored, Coro, to have you here with us. She is the director of the Faculty of Higher Education, the FES Iztacala of the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM. And she is a former director of sustainability, also at UNAM, a full-time professor, and belongs to the National Research System. She's a biologist with a PhD in ecology, and for 30 years, she has directed several research projects related to ecology, evolution, and the conservation of birds. Additionally, she has occupied important positions at the Ecology Laboratory of the Biology, Technology, and Prototypes Unit and the coordination of postgraduate studies in biology. She has published 69 articles in renowned academic journals, 11 books, 35 book chapters as a result of her collaboration with national and international institutions such as the National Council for Science and Technology, CONACYT in Mexico, the University of California Institute for Mexico and the United States, UC-MEX-US, the National Fish and Wildlife Association, among others. Her work has been cited almost 2,000 times. She developed and implemented the program Gardens for Hummingbirds, Jardines para Colibríes, which aim to engage society in conservation initiatives for hummingbird habitat. The first of these gardens was built in 2014, and by 2020, there are at least 90 gardens for hummingbirds in Mexico City. Welcome, Coro. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and we are really looking forward to hearing you. Can you please unmute your microphone?
Okay. Now, thank you very much. I'm sorry about the complication with the microphone. Thank you for the invitation, Anna. Thank you. I am very pleased to be with you and in the Mexican Center, in the Center of Mexican Studies, UK. No? That is wonderful to be able to talk with you about my research. So I'm going to share with you my screen. You tell me if everything is okay.
Yes, it's perfect. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to give you like an overview of what I have been doing in the last years about hummingbirds and hummingbird conservation in Mexico. I decided to talk a little bit about hummingbirds because I know that maybe you don't know hummingbirds in person, because hummingbirds are not in the old world. They are birds of the Americas. So I'm going to present you the hummingbirds. Hummingbirds are very amazing creatures and one of the most amazing thing about hummingbirds is that you can tell that a bird is a hummingbird very easily because they are a very homogeneous family of birds. They share between all species. They have long bills, very long bills, as you can see in the photos. They have very little feet. No? In many of the birds that you see in nature, you cannot even see the feet when flying. And they have very, very long and very point-shaped wings. They are all wings and bill and almost nothing of feet. Hummingbirds, another thing that share between them is that they are very small birds. The smallest hummingbird in the world is Melisuga helena. Melisuga helena is a hummingbird that inhabits only Cuba in the Caribbean Sea. The weight is 2.2 grams. 2.2 grams is almost like a grape. The grapes that you eat, one grape can have this weight. And the biggest of them is Patagonia gigas, that weighs 24 grams. And this hummingbird inhabits the Andes of South America. All the hummingbirds feed on nectar that they obtain from flowers. They visit long and pendant flowers. I put here red flowers, but can be whatever color that contrasts with the environment. So pink flowers, purple flowers, orange flowers, all the colors that make them very bright against the environment. They pollinate more than 1,000 plant species. And to feed on nectar, they have a very specialized tongue. The tongue of a hummingbird, this is a drawing of a hummingbird head. And you can see the tongue here out of the bill. But the tongue is divided in two parts, and it's inserted in the upper forehead of the hummingbird. Then the two parts come together and make like a straw to drink some kind of beverage. So they put together, they make the tube, and this tongue is inserted using the bill into the flowers to get the nectar. They get the nectar by capillarity and by suction. Capillarity is the thing that you get when you put your finger over a straw and the liquid in your beverage gets through the straw. And suction is like we get the water from a beverage. So another thing with hummingbirds is that they fly in all directions. They have a very big fly capacity. They can even be standing still while hovering. And that's a thing that they have to do if they want to visit flowers without standing in the plant. The muscles in the hummingbird body represent more than 30% of the total weight. And that is, there are almost everything in a hummingbird is a muscle, a flight muscle. The muscles are concentrated in the flying area around the wings. They have also a very big brain that represents more or less 20% of the weight. So they are a brain and muscles. And with that, they can fly beating from 80 to 20 wings beats by second. You can imagine that is very, very rapid way of moving the wings. And with that, they can fly at a speed of between 50 and 95 kilometers per hour. They fly really very, very fast. Their metabolism is another thing that is very remarkable in their biology. It is a very fast metabolism. They have body temperatures over 40 degrees Celsius, and they cannot stand more than 10 minutes without feeding because of this very fast metabolism. And because they feed on nectar, and nectar is only a solution of sugar in water, so they can eat the nectar and process it very rapidly, and they need more. no? Another thing that is interesting in hummingbirds is that they make a thing that is called torpor, that is like an hibernation, like the birds that hibernate all the winter, but they do that all the night when they live in cold night places like Mexico City, that is up in the mountains in Mexico. So they drop their metabolism during the night. So if you find a hummingbird in Mexico, near Mexico City, in the forest near Mexico City, during the night, in a cold night, you are going to view a hummingbird that is like a mummy, that is cannot move because they drop their metabolism, and they get like dead, but dead standing still. And when the sun gets up, they lose their condition of torpor and begin flying. They nest using these cup-shaped nests, very small cup-shaped nests. The cups can be the size of a espresso coffee, of a cup of espresso coffee, very, 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 very small. And nests are very well done because they are made with the vegetable matter, and then they are glued in the outer surface using spider webs. The hummingbirds, the female of the hummingbird, collect the spider webs and use the spider web as a glue to make the walls of the nest very sharp. Also, they put things to decorate the outer surface of the nest. And this is not to have a very nice looking nest, but to make it more to make it not see, to make the predators not to see the nest. So female is the only that take care of the chicken, of the chicks, and all the species put 2 white eggs, very small, 1 centimeter of length, and the chicks in the nest there usually are 2, and they are taken care by the female that goes in and out with the feeding material for the hummingbirds. They feed the little hummingbirds with nectar, both with nectar and little insects. They use little insects to feed the little hummingbirds because they grow much faster than if they only are fed with nectar. The feeders of a hummingbird are also interesting because they are iridescent. That means they change color according to the received light. So without light, you can see hummingbirds and they are black or gray. They don't have any color. But with the sunlight, you can see all the colors in the different parts of a hummingbird. They live up to 10 years. 14 years is the higher age of a hummingbird, of a leaf hummingbird. But this of 14 years is one hummingbird that used to live in Arizona and in southern USA, and used to migrate into Mexico for the winter. And for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years, it hasn't migrated because the people of the house is giving him food during the winter. So it is old and remained there like a pet, but it is free because it can go anywhere, but it doesn't go anywhere because the feeders are there and he can live perfectly well there. So it is a hummingbird, it is not full. The distribution of this family of birds is only in the Americas. We have 330 species in all the Americas. US and Canada have 17 species, and Mexico have 58 species. The 17 species of the US and Canada, all of them are present in Mexico because when winter gets here in the northern latitudes, hummingbirds make a migration into Mexico to pass the winter. So hummingbirds that are around here near Alaska fly like 5,000 kilometers to get to Mexico to pass the winter. It is the smaller vertebrate animal that can migrate all that distance to avoid the weather conditions. The highest diversity of hummingbirds is located here in the high tropical Andes, in the mountain ranges. It is supposed that the hummingbirds originated in Europe, and because the probably is the only fossil that well-preserved fossil of hummingbirds that we have was found in Europe. And it is proposed that hummingbirds arrive America through Bering and then migrate into the South American part, colonized South American part. Then the glaciations come and everything here gets under ice, and all the species in North America were lost. And then those species in the South American Andes colonized North America with other species that are indeed the more new species of the hummingbird family. In Mexico, we have 58 hummingbird species, and we have species that are very restricted, that are endemic to the country. So habitat destruction has been one of the things that have a huge impact over hummingbirds and other birds in the country. Commerce, feeders, but also individuals are commerced or are being sold everywhere in the world. Like in 1920s, women want to have hats with the feathers of hummingbirds, and they have to kill lots of hummingbirds to make only one hat and to make it resemble very nice. So now I don't think in Europe there is a tradition of wearing so much hats and not hats having the feathers of any animal. So, but the pressure I'm going to show you later is now over individuals, and because of the thoughts that hummingbirds are related to love. These are the 13 species of hummingbirds that are endemic to Mexico. They are only found in Mexico, so we have a big concern about their conservation. 5 of those 13 species are very restricted. If you see the first one, you are going to see that the population is very small, but the distributional range is more small. It is around 50 square kilometers. That is very, very small, and you are going to see that in a map later on. Here are the maps of the most restricted species. You can see this is all Mexico. You can see the distribution of these species, Euphorhynchus poliocerca. You can see Tallurania ridgway, Euphorhynchus cyanophrys. But you can see this, the Mexican coquette, the Lophornis brachylopha, that this is only found in Guerrero in a range of 50 square kilometers. If something passed to the distribution, to the habitat where this species lives, we are going to lose a species for the world. And Mexico is not in a very, very good condition of conservation. If you see those two maps, the one here in the upper part is 2003, and this is 2007, and you can see the change in vegetation, especially the change in the vegetation of the mountainous ranges in the Sierra Madre, in the Sierra Madre Occidental, the Sierra Madre Oriental, the Eje Neovolcánico, the Sierra Madre del Sur, where the hummingbirds are more diverse in Mexico. You can see that we are losing a lot of the habitats we have, And so we can begin to see ourselves concerned about conservation of birds. So we did a survey of considering that Mexico, one of the most important things that the government have done to make conservation real is to have a good system of natural protected areas. So we checked the distribution of hummingbirds against the distribution of the natural protected areas, and we use a complementarity analysis to set the minimum set of areas to preserve all the species, considering only one population to be preserved for each species of hummingbirds. And we found a horrible thing, because with this very loose condition of having only one population of each species to be conserved, we get to a list of 10 areas that have to be preserved. But this is how the database of presence absence look, and we get to this set of 10 areas to be preserved. And we realized that 3 out of the 10 areas were not a natural protected area system. One of them is Cozumel. Cozumel is an island in the Caribbean Sea of Mexico. And in this area, in Cozumel area, all the maritime, all the sea part of Cozumel is a protected area, but the terrestrial part of Cozumel is not a protected area and is where an endemic species of hummingbird live. So if we don't get that part, we are not going to conserve that species. And there are two other sites in Mexico, la Sierra de Atoyac and la Sierra de Miahuatlán in la Sierra Madre del Sur in Mexico, that are not protected. They are named as an ICA, as an IBA, the program that in the UK began to promote important bird areas that BirdLife International promote a lot of years ago. And in Mexico, we did a program with that was called ICAS, the Áreas de Importancia para la Conservación de las Aves. That is the same of important bird areas, but in Spanish. And those 3 are ICAS, but ICAS are only sites nominated by bird people as places important for conservation. So we produced this analysis, and we proposed the government to include those areas into the protected national area system. We're going to try, but I don't think we are going to be very, very successful soon, because of many things. Cozumel, for example, is a huge place for tourism development, and the tourism need the terrestrial parts to develop hotels and to develop all the infrastructure that tourists want to have. And the other 2 sites have a lot of trouble with many things in the area that have been done, the conservation around those sites very difficult. Okay, we have been using now some data sources, some databases that are available for bird conservation, eBird or Averaves, the Partners in Flight database, and all our personal data that my students and me have been gathering for more than 30 years now. And I have been trying to see what happened with the population of some species. And I'm going to tell you very, very lightly what have we learned about some species that I have selected. We have done that with all the Mexican species. For example, this first one is Amazilia beryllina, is the Berlin hummingbird. And this is a very widely distributed species. It is a generalist. It can be found in many of the temperate forests, in the pine oak forest of Mexico. And it is also a city inhabitant, a very, very, very well adapted city inhabitant. And this species has no threats. It is distributed in at least 15 natural area system, and it has an increment very, very, very moderate. It is a core species in more of the networks we have been analyzing, and it visits a lot of the plant species that are available in the temperate forest in Mexico. In the cities, they are very, very, very well adapted, and this is a trend in Mexico City. Mexico City, for those of you that don't know the city, is a very big city with almost 20 million inhabitants. And Amasilla Beridlina is doing, this is the city map. Everything is surrounded by buildings and streets. Only this part is with a forest or some kind of forest. And you can see the bird is doing a good job in the city. It can be considered an urban species now. This is Atis Eloisa. This is the smallest species in Mexico. It weighs like 2 grams. It is a very common species in the forest, in the temperate forest, also in the pine oak forest. And if you see the distribution and the trend, the population trend, you can see that it is doing well. It is increasing a little bit. Amasilla rutila, this is a species, the cinnamon hummingbird. It is distributed in the Pacific coast of Mexico, in the tropical dry forest, and in the peninsula of Yucatan. And this species is increasing a little bit. There are much more less observations of this species, and this has also to get taken into account when you analyze the trends. But Chlorostyle bonauriceps, this is a species that is endemic to Mexico, also in the tropical dry forest of the Pacific coast of Mexico. And this species is also doing a good job about increasing a little bit, but mainly standing still. This is Enanthus sordidus, another endemic species. This species inhabits more arid lands in central Mexico, and it is almost, the population trend is almost nothing, but a little increment you can find in it. Ilocaris hantusi is a species, an endemic species of the peninsula de Baja California, and it is experimenting a little increase in the population, but also very, very little. Euphorus apoliosorca, the one that is inhabitant the Sierra de Miahuatlan, is also have a tendency to population trend to increase a little. And the most highly restricted species, Lophornis brachylophus, the Mexican coquette, have very little information about this species. The tendency is a moderate decrement. So we have to be very concerned about the conservation of this species. What do we need, or what do they need to be preserved? They need mainly 2 things: feeding resources, where to feed plants, flowers, but also they need nesting habitats. Because if you are only saying that we need feeding resources, we as humans can plant flowers that they can visit, but to preserve the nesting habitat is another thing. You have to preserve pristine habitats where they can make the nests. They do not make the nests wherever, except for some very few species. And to do that, we have to raise awareness to make people protect them. So what feeding resources they need? They need, we have done also a research about how many plant species do they need to be protected, and more than 1,000 species are visited by them. They represent more than 100 plant species, plant families, but they are 10%, 57% of all the registers are concentrated in 10 plant families. So yes, there are more than 100 plant families visited, but they prefer like 10 plant families. You can see flowers are red, orange, or contrasting with the environment. Breeding habitats, we have little information about this. About only 9 species out of the 58 Mexican species, the nest and all the breeding behavior have been described. The other 25 species have some data, and all the other species we do not know nothing. So we need more studies on breeding of hummingbirds, and we have to make the preservation of natural forests to preserve these hummingbird species. You can see here in another revision we made the species that are considered more restricted, as Losfornis brachylopus. We don't know anything. Other species, endemic species, we need something, but in some cases it is very little. We know that the Euphorus oceanophrys has a nest that is cup-shaped, nothing more. So we have to work hard in this to begin describing the nesting behavior. But this is not very easy, because to find a nest that is the size of a cup of espresso coffee is very difficult in natural habitats. We have been doing a lot of work trying to raise awareness among citizens and making citizen science as big and as wonderful as the citizen science you have in the UK. We have done some spectacular advances, but we are not even in 10% of what you have done in the UK for citizen science, for birds only. We, as a team, we published a book in 2014 that is called Colibríes de México y North America, and it is a book that is written in Spanish and in English. It is half page in English, half page in Spanish. I can send you a PDF of the book if you want to read it. Just only write me a note on the email and I will send you. We have done like a summary of the book for the birds of Mexico City, including all the 19 species that we can find in Mexico City. We have been working with little kids as those to remind them that hummingbirds exist and to make them know hummingbirds, to love hummingbirds. People in Mexico and in all Mesoamerica love hummingbirds. They are considered as good luck animals. They are related with love and good wishes. So people want to have them around. And from the ancient Mexican, from Tenochtitlan, hummingbirds are considered as part of the higher gods of Mexico. This is Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and the sun in Tenochtitlan. And this god has in the part of the codices, and all the codices that you can see, put a hummingbird in the back of the god. This is one of the main gods of Tenochtitlan, and it is one of the main gods among the Mexicas that are known as being a culture of the war, but based mainly in the war, because they protect the city against all of the other cultures around Tenochtitlan. Even Mayas that are very far away from Mexicas in Mexico have also hummingbirds related to cultures. Among Mayas, they say that when gods were seated to creating all the things in the nature, gods at the end say that they forgot to make the ones that carry the thoughts, and so they took a jade stone, they carved it, and they blew over it to create hummingbirds. And so the thoughts in the Mayans are the hummingbirds are the ones that carry good news, wishes, and news from the dead body into the live body. And this is a representation of this. This is a hummingbird visiting a flower, and this is a dead man. And it is said that go and tell them that I am okay. So it is said that when one of your loved person pass away, they send you wishes and good wishes with the hummingbirds that visit you. In the contemporary art, hummingbirds are represented wherever. This is Frida Kahlo, very well-known woman in Mexico, painter, and as well as Diego Rivera. And the hummingbird is put as a necklace here. This is a very good known paint in Mexico from Manuel Carranza, and here is the hummingbird visiting a flower. You can see hummingbirds in the pre-Hispanic art as the codices, like this, as in the Cultura Zapoteca, in a piece of ceramic that that you can see in the Museum de Antropología y Historia in Mexico City. But also in the modern life, you can see hummingbirds in the skin of lots of women and men, like tattoos, as you can see in there. But all the legends that I have talked about, where they come from, in my opinion, they come from biological form and function. When I told you that hummingbirds were part of the Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, that is because hummingbirds to feed are very territorial and they defend the flowers they use. So they are war animals in effect. And then I told you that they were related with love and good luck. And this is related with pollination. They visit flowers, and when visiting the flowers, they get the male gametes, and they carry the pollen into new flowers, and they do the plant sexual reproduction. And with that, they can be related to good love things like reproduction. So hummingbirds, as they are very near of people, can be used to protect urban places and other places in the world, because if you protect hummingbirds, you protect all the other animals that are in here. In 2014, as Elena told you, we began a project to plant hummingbird gardens, and we began in a school in Mexico City that is lacking all kind of garden, but they make a very nice pot to put the hummingbird plants. These are the stairs of the school, and hummingbirds get into that plants very easily. Then we get to another school with a lot of garden, and we planted some plant species, and hummingbirds visited them. Then we went to an elderly home in the south of Mexico City, and we use artificial feeders and also plants, but the artificial feeders here help us a lot because the elder people do not have a very sharp vision. So if you put a feeder, they can sit very close to it and see the hummingbirds very well. And as they are not as noisy as little kids or as guys that come into the bachelor schools, hummingbirds adapt very easily, and they can be taking a coffee and seeing the hummingbirds very, very well. This project is growing. Now we have more than 100 gardens, and we have been recently working with elderly homes in some parts of Mexico City. And really it's a very nice project because people in all ages want to see the hummingbirds. And that's a very good point to begin conserving them, because if you know them, you're going to protect them. I am sure of that. There's a map of Mexico City and the gardens we have registered in that page. In that page, you can see all the materials that we have been using to promote these ideas in Mexico. We have gardens registers also in the US and Canada, and also in other parts of Central and South America. Both protection is needed. Like some years ago, we find out by a call of National Geographic that in the US, in the southern US, they are receiving packages containing these things. That is a hummingbird. This is the wing feather of the hummingbird. This is the head and the bill of the hummingbird. And this is some kind of threads that are put around the body of the hummingbird. And they are sold in some kind of, in some markets in Mexico City, but they are sold now by the internet. And the people selling those things that are called amarres, they told the people that if you want to marry with a man that you love, but the man doesn't love you, you buy an amarre, and they put two hummingbirds with the bills looking into each other, and they put the thread all around the head and the body of the hummingbirds, and they tighten all the two hummingbirds together. They put that into a little bag, and you have that bag with some other things. You go with the bag to your house, and they told you that in 90% of probability you are going to marry that man. So that thing can really make a disaster with the hummingbirds. We did a huge thing in the press with National Geographic to try to prevent them to sell that thing. They put away the web page, but I don't know if soon they are going to begin selling that again, because in the market they sell those amarres in 100 pesos, that is like $5. And if you buy that by internet, you have to pay $100 plus the money to ship that amarre. So it is a huge difference between selling that in a market in Mexico and selling that in internet. And it is much easier. This is forbidden of course, by law, but they managed to put that into the mail and get that into the US. So we are looking to this very closely, because this can be a very huge threat to hummingbird conservation in Mexico and in other parts of Latin America. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for all my students and for all the people that put money and heart into this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Coro. What a fascinating little creature, and how wonderful that you have devoted so much of your life and energy to preserve them and to admire them. I want to invite the audience, both those of you who are here in the Zoom room, to make questions. You can do them on the chat, or you can open your microphones and you turn on your microphones and cameras and do them directly. Just let us know. And I was wondering, well, there are so many things that come to mind, you know, about these beautiful animals. And I was wondering about the aspect of photography, because they might be very difficult to capture, right?
They are very difficult to capture, especially to make a photo that is, everything is in good focus. Mm-hmm. You can make a photo of the head, but then the wings getting out of focus. There are few photographers that can do that, but there are very good photographers doing that in Mexico.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed that on your website, which all of you can find on the chat box, you have a way in which ordinary people can monitor hummingbirds. How do we get educated? Because there are so many varieties that many of us would not be able to tell one from the other.
There are species that are very difficult, especially the females. But there are other species that you can tell apart very easily. In Mexico City, for example, you can see like 19 species of hummingbirds all the year. But in any particular moment, you're going to see 3 or 4, and one is very easily recognizable. So once you know that species, the other ones you can figure out using the book and the booklets that we have been using that are all in the website, and you can download them. It is free to download all the materials. And you can, that's an interesting thing, you can register your observations using eBird, that in Mexico is called Averaves. You can use that platform that is in Conavio's web page, and you can put your observations, and you can make a register, a regular register of your feeders or your plants or both.
Excellent. Yes, that is one of the things that I have noticed being here in the UK, what you just mentioned. No, Sir David Attenborough speaks to the people to watch moths, for example, and butterflies, and they have a guidance, so everybody says, I saw this here in this place, etc. And I think it's a fascinating thing to do.
And I think in Mexico, we are beginning to see that we can use those data. If you see the population trends, most of those data were taken from eBird, that are observations, citizen science observation. At the beginning, we were very few making the registers, but now there are many people doing observations. I think to see birds is a thing that is a very good way to invest our times.
Yes.
That is free, that you enjoy, and everything.
Okay, excellent. Yes, I agree. And during lockdown, many people have taken up bird watching.
Yes.
Yeah. So there are a few questions in the chat box.
Yes.
They say congratulations for such fantastic work. Thank you for a very interesting talk. It is a shame we do not have hummingbirds in the UK. Yes, we do miss them. Beautiful birds for them. Okay, to protect some spaces for them, then yes. Thank you, Araida.
But you can come to Americas to see the hummingbirds. You are more than welcome to come and see the hummingbirds in Mexico or anywhere in America. That's a good reason to visit America.
Yes. And Diana, hi Diana, thank you so much. I've done memories of watching hummingbirds at my friend's house in Mexico City when I was a child. Oh, that's wonderful. Erendira, she's asking, is the artificial liquid set in the garden feeders, is it safe? Yes, people wonder whether it's too much sugar. I've heard this before. And then yes, how can I get the PDF you mentioned?
The feeders used to feed hummingbirds are safe if you use them good. If you use the liquid that are sold in the pets stores, the liquid is, they usually sell you sugar that is painted in red. So the painting, the red painting of the sugar is not good for anybody. If you drink sugar painted in red, you are going to get cancer maybe, because the red 9, that is a colorant, the dye that is used to dye sugar, is cancer promoting. So I don't know if that promotes cancer in hummingbirds, but we know that it promotes cancer in humans. So don't use the red sugar for the feeders. Use regular sugar. The sugar you use in your home, that is the sugar you have to give the hummingbirds in 20% of concentration. That is a water with sugar that tastes well, tastes like sweetie. But wow. And then the other thing, if you use feeders, you have to clean the feeders regularly. If you let the sugar with water stands in there, you are going to get it fermented, and then it is not good for the hummingbirds, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then, well, Ian says, thank you for a fascinating presentation and warm congratulations on your splendid work. Thank you, this was so informative. I'm currently studying conservation biology in the UK at Manchester Metropolitan University, so it was good to learn something about the hummingbirds. For the book, again, where can they find the book? And then let me read, oh, hello, Richard. Good to have you here as well. How long does it take after creating a suitable garden in Mexico City for the hummingbirds to find it?
Like, it depends on where in Mexico City it is, but in the more pavements around the gardens, it took like 1 hour.
Oh, really?
2 hours is a lot.
Uh-huh.
Hummingbirds are very, very smart, and they can find flowers wherever they are put. And we have some gardens that are, me and my students are carrying the plants to be put into the places, and hummingbirds get into the plants as we are working with the plants. So hummingbirds are very easy to attract. They are birds that are not afraid of humans because they know you cannot catch them. Do whatever you want, you cannot catch them with your hands, with your body. If you use a gun or you use another thing, you can do, but in the normal way, if you want to catch a hummingbird, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And what about other predators like cats and dogs or other birds?
Yes, cats are a problem for birds in all of the cities. For hummingbirds, they're not so a huge problem because the nests of the hummingbirds in the city are being in the very thin tree branches, very, very thin. So if the cat walks into that tree branches, it's going to fall before getting the nest. And the eggs are so tiny, the cats do not want to eat those eggs. It's very a little. They have to find 20 nests to feed. So they're not so interested, the cats, in those. The birds want to catch the hummingbirds. In most cases they cannot. There are some cases where a cat or a dog can catch a hummingbird in a feeder, for example, when the hummingbird is not aware and the cat or the dog is a very good predator. But it's not so a huge problem. Predators for hummingbird in the natural world are snakes, for example, little snakes that go into the tiny branches of the trees and get the eggs, or the chicks, no? Mm-hmm. And mainly that, or little mouses or something like that go into that tiny branches, but not many predators for hummingbirds in nature. The spiders, yes, we have been seeing many photographs of a hummingbird like catching a spider web. I told you that hummingbirds collect the spider webs, and sometimes they get the wrong spider web. They get a very big spider, and the spider attacks the hummingbird while collecting the spider web. So it can be, but there are not so many big spiders that can catch a hummingbird in that manner.
Okay. And yes, Patricia is asking, is there a program to protect these beautiful birds to avoid making and selling the charms with these species?
Yes, we have been doing a lot of things. We have talked about that in the newspapers, in the TV, and it is prohibited by law, but it is not so easy to make the law function, especially when we have gone into the internet, because the internet is free. Everybody can buy whatever they want, and they can sell. That thing, we became aware of that because in the US mail, they found those things, and they became like very concerned about the security of those things. The first thing they thought there was bombs or something like that, but they realized they are not bombs. They are only regular hummingbirds make with some things, no? So, but that's the way. And they found, like, in a year, they found like 200 packages with the hummingbirds. So they became very concerned, and National Geographic came here to Mexico City, and we make a very big story about that. And I think it was successful, but I think we cannot get the eyes out of that.
Is it true that they make a tui sound when they sing? This relates to the Mexica legend of the hummingbird, calling the Mexica people to leave Aztlán by calling tiwi tiwi to mean.
Yes, they make like that. They can sing. Hummingbirds can sing. That's right. But they sing very, very little, like that. Tiwi 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 tiwi.
Very nice.
But they are not songbirds. Songbirds have something in their digestive system that make them able to sing. Hummingbirds do not have that, but can make those sounds, and also make a lot of sounds with the wings while hovering or while flying.
And they're asking about your book, Coro. Do you want them to write directly to you, or would you like us to help with that?
Yes, you can help me. I can send you the PDF, and then you can distribute. It is free. It is free also in Conavio. And we are working in a new edition. So we don't have it in paper anymore. We have like 2 or 3, but we're going to have a new edition of that book, because in that book, if you see it closely, it has 57 species. When that book came, a new species was described. So now we have 58 species. So we're doing that change, and we are making some of other arrangements to the book.
Wonderful. Excellent. Well, thank you very much indeed, Coro, because I know you're extremely busy, but you made space in your really busy agenda to deliver this fascinating talk. I'm sure you have inspired many of us to continue watching whatever birds are near us, and to treasure these little creatures that are so incredible.
You can share my email, and anyone interested can chat with me by the email.
Yes, of course. I'm writing it just now. It's a very, very simple email. Yes.
Yes, it's very, very simple. Coro UNAM MX.
Well,
thank you very much for everybody.
Who's been here with us, and people who have been following us on Facebook and YouTube as well. Coro, we have the president of the British Mexican Society here with us, Richard Maudsley, who is clapping, and Diana Maudsley as well. Annalise Herrera is also, you can see all the clappings that we would be very, very effusive if we were live, but we're really happy to have had you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for attending.
Yes. Lots of claps.
Thank you.
Let me do the clapping as well. Yes, good, excellent. We loved your talk. Thank you very much.
I love you here, being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Coro. Great to see you, and goodbye. See you next time.
Bye. See you soon.
See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.